Let's face it, there's a lot of Batman stories out there. Like, a lot. Like to the point where it's pretty difficult for DC Comics fanboys like myself to keep up with them. There are so many Batman stories out there that I'm sure that you and all of my lovely subscribers are going to add some interesting reading recommendations that I've never heard of in the comments section below. I know it can be hard to find new and underrated Batman stories these days, so I thought I'd make a reading recommendation list for the most critically acclaimed Batman tales that you've probably never heard of. A lot of you hardcore DC Comics fans probably came across these Batman stories, but hey, you never know. There might be a story arc that you haven't come across that's worthwhile for you to check out. But before we get into this, please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics. You do not want to miss out on our awesome content. Now, starting off our list, we have Batman Incorporated. This series picked up quickly after Batman came back from the dead. For those of you who don't know, he was killed by Darkseid in Final Crisis. Now returned to the present day, Bruce decides to up his war on crime by basically franchising it. He drafts, trains, and commands a global team of heroes who answer to Batman himself. The name of the team is, you guessed it, Batman Inc. The story follows Bruce traveling the world to find allies while fighting a mysterious criminal organization called Leviathan. It's pretty interesting and different from your typical Batman story. It's nice to see Batman away from Gotham every once in a while fighting new and unique villains. Really big things happen in the series. For instance, in Batman Inc., issue number 8, Damian Wayne is killed by the Heretic during a Leviathan invasion at Wayne Tower. Do not worry though, it's comics. No popular character stays dead for too long. Batman No Man's Land is also another underrated Batman story that you should definitely check out. After a major earthquake hit Gotham City, the US government officially evacuated Gotham and left those who chose to stay. This story covers a period of the lives of the people who just could not leave Gotham. After the government sets up a military blockade to stop people from leaving, gangs and supervillains swiftly carve up the city. James Gordon and his men stay behind to protect the city while Bruce leaves to lobby to the government to continue aid to Gotham. Unfortunately for him, he fails and leaves Gotham for a couple months. Eventually, Batman returns on day 98 and saves Alfred from a group of thugs. First, he starts off by taking over the ventriloquist territory and reclaims Gotham piece by piece. No Man's Land is also a very unique Batman story that's highly underrated. I mean, for Batman to rebuild Gotham after it went into total chaos? I mean, come on. How is that not a recipe for a great Batman story? Batman R.I.P. is another amazing story that does not get talked about too much. The story follows Batman as he takes on the Black Glove organization. Shortly into his relationship with Jezebel Jet, a model who's very influential in her home country, Bruce reveals the Batcave to her. Then she tries to gaslight him into believing that he's simply living a life that he's fabricated in his own head. Then she triggers a mental breakdown in Bruce after whispering to him Sur-Anar. Shortly after, the Black Glove infiltrates the Batcave, beats Alfred, and drugs Batman. This left Bruce in a state where he had no recollection of who he was. The story gets kinda sad as we see Bruce befriending a homeless man to get by. Bruce gave him $200 and later finds out that the homeless man used it to buy substances that led to his overdose. This caused Bruce to snap and don the Batman of Sur-Anar identity. Dr. Hurt, the leader of the Black Glove, eventually captures the Batman of Sur-Anar, puts him in a straitjacket, and buries him in a shallow grave. What I really love about this story is that it really highlighted just how spectacular Batman is. As the Joker puts it, Batman is no mere mortal. Despite losing his mind, getting put in a straitjacket, and buried beneath the ground, Batman managed to get out of that sticky situation and defeat the Black Glove. Now, this next story isn't exactly a Batman story, but it's still worthwhile to check out nonetheless. This story is based off of a true incident that happened to Paul Dini. For those of you who don't know, Paul Dini has worked on the Batman franchise for a number of years. He was a producer and writer for the Batman the Animated Series cartoon for the majority of its run. He and Bruce Timm created the Harley Quinn and Terry McGinnis characters. One night, after going on a date, Paul decides to take a walk home. Unfortunately, on his way home, he gets assaulted by two thugs. His injuries are so bad that he ended up needing surgery. What's really interesting is that throughout the story, he wrestles with his imagination in the form of Batman characters. After he got mugged, he imagines Batman chastising him for not fighting back, he imagines Two-Face judging his actions, and he even imagines Poison Ivy criticizing him over the woman he tries to set himself up with. This event was so traumatic for him that he decided to walk away from Batman projects for a short while. In his low state, his imagination of the Joker appears taunting him, enjoying how terrible things have gone for him. One thing leads to another, he starts drinking and gets pneumonia. When he got scared, Batman appears and tells him only he can get himself out of this situation. Eventually, Paul resumes his work on Batman, gets help through therapy, and starts getting back into the things that he loves to get over his trauma. Next up on the list is Batman Private Casebook by, you guessed it, Paul Dini. I really recommend that you check this out as it's really familiar to the Batman the Animated Series. It follows Batman on a lot of cool and unique face-offs with old foes and new villains. For instance, Batman faces off against the Mad Hatter's gang. At first, you're made to think that the Mad Hatter himself orchestrated the chaos since he has the technology to control people's minds. However, it was another mystery villain that used the Mad Hatter's devices, which I won't spoil. He also went up against the Peyton Riley version of the Ventriloquist. The Ventriloquist is a person with dissociative identity disorder who expresses her dark side through the Scarface ventriloquist doll. As you'd expect, Batman managed to defeat the criminal mastermind. There's even a couple of cool DC Comics characters like Zatanna who make appearances in the series. Batman Damned is also an interesting story to check out. This is more of a supernatural and horror story as opposed to a fantastical or crime drama type of Batman tale. It takes place outside of the mainstream DC Comics continuity. In this continuity, the Joker has died at the hands of Batman, but Batman has no recollections of that event. Suspecting that something supernatural was at play, he enlists the help of John Constantine and delves into Gotham's supernatural underworld to solve the mystery. A ton of cool DC Comics characters like the Spectre, Etrigan the Demon, Deadman, Zatanna, the Swamp Thing, and Enchantress make appearances. Next up on the list we have Batman the Cult. This story is pretty interesting as it follows Batman slowly succumbing to the brainwashing tactics of Deacon Blackfire. Deacon Blackfire is a supervillain that's over 134 years old who is a highly capable conman and cult leader. The story picks up with Batman being kidnapped. Batman is being tortured and brainwashed by Deacon and his cult. Even after his escape, he takes a long time to recover. While Batman is recovering, the story follows Gotham in his absence. Gotham politicians are assassinated by Deacon Blackfire's cult, and an attempt on Commissioner Gordon's life was made, leaving him hospitalized. Gotham got so rough that authorities had to call in the National Guard. The military and finally martial law is declared on Gotham to try and restore order. If you're looking for a grounded Batman story, I highly recommend that you check out Batman the Imposter. This story takes place in the earlier years of Batman's career. In this continuity, Alfred Pennyworth quits and Bruce ends up getting therapy from Leslie Tompkins. After getting injured from trying to stop 3 robbers, Batman stumbles into Leslie Tompkins' office bleeding on the floor. She agrees to not calling the cops on him and nursing him back to health in exchange for giving him therapy. Hence, he's slightly more healthy than your typical Batman. The story follows Bruce as he's trying to find the Batman imposter who's killing innocent people. Hence, the cops are hot on his trail since they suspect he killed the innocent civilians. Batman Black Mirror is also a really well done and underrated Batman story that you need to check out. The story follows Dick Grayson as he's protecting Gotham as Batman while Bruce is off building Batman Inc. He investigates an underground criminal organization called the Black Mirror that's been auctioning off supervillain tech. He follows a lead that's been using the Mad Hatter's mind control technology. He also followed another lead that used the Man-Bat formula to try and escape him. While he's following all these leads, Jim Gordon's son comes back into the picture. He's the half-brother to Barbara Gordon, and he just so happens to be a complete psychopath. Hence, he was estranged from the family. He tries convincing everyone that he's rehabilitated, but surprise surprise, he starts falling back into his old habits. This story did a really great job of balancing a lot of interesting plotlines. James Gordon's son developed a drug that turns people into psychopaths, so things went in a pretty hardcore direction pretty quickly. Now, in my opinion, the #1 underrated Batman story that you need to check out is Batman Venom. This is one of the most epic yet grounded Batman stories out there. The story picks up with Batman investigating the whereabouts of a missing girl. Unfortunately, Batman was not physically strong enough to lift a boulder to get her out before she drowned. Feeling down and insecure over his limitations, he starts taking the same venom drugs that Bane uses to enhance his strength. As he kept on using more drugs, he starts to go into a downward spiral and lose himself. Eventually, he loses sight of his mission and becomes obsessed with securing more drugs. The situation was so bad that he had to get Alfred to lock him in the Batcave and beat his addiction cold turkey style. After persevering through his withdrawal symptoms, he travels to Santa Prisca to stop an army of soldiers laced with the venom drug. I just love this story as it doesn't shy away from dark and ugly truths, and it puts Batman's humanity at the forefront. Like many of us, he chose to numb himself with substances after getting his pride hurt and grieving over the loss of an innocent. Yet, at the same time, this story does not shy away from the fact that people can overcome hardships and addictions. I just love stories about the triumph of the human spirit, but what do you think? Do you agree with this list? Which underrated Batman story do you think is the best? As always, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics so that you do not miss out on our awesome content. Stay groovy.